Good morning, Frisco, and thank you so much for being with us. We are at our final episode of the real LeadHERs of Frisco, and we are celebrating Women's History Month. And so our final topic today is around the importance of mentoring and community service. And I have with me 4 amazing women who have made such a contribution in our community. And so they're going to share a little bit with us about community service and mentoring and what that's meant to them as women leaders in Frisco. So I'm going to turn it over to them to just do a brief intro, and then we'll get started with our conversation. And just a reminder, if you've been with us, you know that this is just girlfriend chat, and you just happen to be a recipient of all this great conversation. So I'll turn it over to Karen.
Hi, my name is Karen Cunningham. My husband and I moved to Frisco almost 18 years ago, and we have 2 children, a high schooler and a middle schooler. So we're very busy these days with the kids and their activities. Community service is something I got involved in within 6 months of moving here. A neighbor told me about Frisco Women's League, and I joined, and that was kind of my first step into serving in the community. And since that time, I've served within Frisco Family Services for 9 years, served as president of the board, served on the Frisco Chamber of Commerce for 6 years, served as chair of that board as well. And I currently serve on the board of Frisco Fast Packs, where I'm also blessed to be the current president. So community service is something that's near and dear to my heart. And professionally, I actually do have a job as well.
You do have a job.
I do fit that in as well. But I own my own consulting firm called Entrust HR. And it's an HR consulting firm, and we outsource HR for smaller, mid-sized companies that don't have the need for a full-time HR person, but certainly have the need for HR expertise.
Awesome. I almost feel like I could tell you Karen's background, because many of you know that Karen and I were on the campaign trail. And I think just having Karen here is a testament that, you know what, campaigning is campaigning, but as women, we are friends, we're sisters, and we're here to encourage and lift each other up. So I am so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
Vinita.
Yes. Wow, Karen, you make me feel like I need to do more in Frisco. That was incredible. My name is Vinita Reed, and I have been in Frisco since December 1998. My husband played professional football for 12 years, and we heard about this great city called Frisco that was up and coming, and we just stepped out on faith. We love it here. We have 2 children. My son now plays for New York Giants, and our daughter is an athlete in Texas A&M. So we're a sports family, and I am a team mom. And whenever my children were involved, that was the area of community service I was in. I didn't join any committees, but I was on the PTA, and I had to do everything that I needed to do to support my children. Now my community service is not only in Frisco and Dallas, but also in Louisiana. But I know we're going to talk about that later. So I'm Vinita Reed, and I'm so happy to be here.
Vinita is I call Vinita V. So y'all, if you happen to hear me say V, that's who I'm talking to. And it's just so exciting to have Vinita here, and we'll hear more about her story and how she's giving back in different ways in different communities. Shanthi.
My name is Shanthi Rajaram. I think I'm the youngest in Frisco. We moved in 2005, so it's 16 years. Both my kids were born in Frisco. I have 2 kids, a girl, Mansi, she goes to Centennial High School, and my son, Nikhil, he goes to Dollar Middle, very similar to you. We live, breathe, and work out of Frisco, which means I run a business. We established in Frisco 15 years back, and our whole world revolves around, exactly like you. I started volunteering with the school initially. With the busy life that we had, the best volunteer job that I found was to, I don't know if you guys remember, they used to print all the materials within the school, and I used to go and mindless job, just keep printing and, binding and stapling, laminating. That I used to love doing that. It used to be 2 to 3 hours every week, but I love doing whatever way we can contribute. That's how it started. But then got pulled into so many different things. As you know, Angelia, my passion is in women in tech, women in business. So I have volunteered for various organizations that aligns with this passion. Currently, I am president of our software services company, which is Amazing Solutions, but I also chair the board for Dallas Fort Worth Alliance of Technology and Women. And I also sit on Frisco Chamber of Commerce. I think we were together last year, and then, I still continue on that. I currently chair their small business solution group. That's what they call it. So again, continuing in the same passion.
Awesome. So excited to have you here. And I'm looking forward to hearing about some of the things that you've done for the women in STEM, which I think is just a phenomenal area. Mm-hmm. And then Maria is with us today.
Hey, everybody. My name is Maria Legall. I am the newbie of the group. I've only been in Frisco about 4 years and in Texas about 6 years after my husband retired from the military after serving 38 years. We currently have 4 children. We have grandchildren. My passion is I'm currently the Collin County coordinator for Toys for Tots. I was the very first president of the Frisco VFW Auxiliary. They never had one, so I was also one of the 15 founders of the VFW Auxiliary in Frisco, Texas. I know I have a lot more to give for Frisco. Again, I'm the newbie, but I enjoy living in Frisco. I enjoy the things that I've done, the people that I've met, and I see that there's going to be a lot more for me to do while we're living here in Frisco. And I truly appreciate Angela for inviting me to this wonderful group and meet a group of powerful women. And I'm blessed to be in the presence of each and every one of you all. Thank you.
Thank you. And you guys are all powerful in your own right. So I had an opportunity to recently meet Maria when she was making a passionate plea for people to get involved with Toys for Tots and the work that she's done. I've heard stories about the work that she's done in Collin County for Toys for Tots and making sure that there are no children that wake up on Christmas Day without gifts. And that's powerful. So I'm sure we're going to hear more, and she's going to make a passionate plea to those of you out there. But again, just an amazing group of women. Hopefully you guys can see that these women are not only focused on themselves and their family, but they're also focused on giving back into the community. So I want to open it up now. And like I said, this is free flow, girl talk. But when you heard that we were going to be talking on the subject of mentoring and community service, kind of just tell us a little bit about what came to your mind when you thought about that, just some of your initial thoughts. And it doesn't matter what order we go into, you guys just kind of take the mic and run with it a little bit.
I'll mention, community service to me, such a blessing. And that's really how I always look at it. I feel like for those who may not think that they have the opportunity to give back, one of the things that I always want to make sure people know is how much reward there is for us personally to give back in the community. And there are so many opportunities to serve. And I think living in an affluent community, in a community like Frisco, where you see the numbers and it's not obvious there is a need, but there absolutely is. And there are neighbors who need our support. They need our love. They need us to lift them up when they can't lift themselves up. And just that opportunity to be that person for that individual. Don't have to know them. I don't ever have to know them. But I think that, for those that might not realize what a blessing that is, if they would just take that opportunity and just throw themselves into something, I think they'd be very, very, very pleased with how it feels.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Karen, because what I heard from you as you talked was it really is about being other focused. It is not about being self-absorbed, but really thinking about how can I touch and help somebody else. And oftentimes what holds us back from giving and reaching out is we get inside our own heads and think, well, I don't have anything to give, or I don't have a talent to lend, or I'm not good at this. And again, that's all being self-absorbed, thinking about self. When you get out of self, you realize that even if it's nothing but reading a book to a child, that is doing something to somebody. Even if it's going and packing a can at Frisco Family Services, that's doing something for somebody else. So get out of our heads sometimes and just realize that everybody has something that they can do to help somebody else and to be other focused. Thank you for that, Karen. Who else?
Well, I was always raised to much is given, much is required. And I am always seeking ways to give and ways to be a blessing. And I teach my children to do the same. We live in a community where there are tons of children playing outside, and I love seeing that. And one day my son came home and he said, I just want to go buy a bunch of balls for these children.
Wow.
And my husband said, oh, they can go buy balls. Their parents can buy balls. And then I thought, but what blessing that would be for a stranger to see a child or see children and to bring them a bunch of balls. What lesson is that going to teach them? You know, and so I think that we should always seek opportunities to give and to serve. And, you know, that's one reason why I hate these masks, because I love just sharing a smile.
Mm-hmm.
But even behind the mask, when I wear it, I'm always smiling, and people can see my eyes smiling. And, you know, sometimes that's all people need is just a smile. So I think we need to look for large ways to give, but even the small ways to give also.
I love what you said, V, because what you just said is that giving is not always about the tangible. It's about the intangible. And the smiles are the intangibles. That's a way of connecting with people. Oftentimes, smiles are a way of telling people, I see you. And that is so important, equally as important, and sometimes even more important as the tangible things that you give to people. Love that.
Yep.
Shanthi.
So my community service started when I was in India. But in Frisco, I think one of the gaps that I was seeing was if you look at how Frisco is right now, it has so many ethnicities, people coming from different part of the world. Many of us, I represent Indian because I have come from India. And what I have noticed is we all want to give back, but we don't know where to start and how to get involved, whom to go and ask. So when I started, I was not just representing me, I was learning the process to see how I can teach my set of people that this is where you go, this is what you can do, this is where the gap is, you can fill it. All of us have skills. Just like you said, we may not know the network, but there are a lot of skills that we bring to table, and how can we help the city and people here. So those were my early thoughts. And I had some connections here. I have reached to Wendy. I have reached to a few others to build that network. So that's where it started. And one of the initiatives that we did, so there were a couple of things that I also thought. When we look at local community, right, I remember being born in India and living in the community. And every time I go there, there is a different kind of feeling we get that is my home place. And like I said, my kids were born here. And I want them selfishly to stick around in Frisco when they grow up, so I don't have to keep moving places. So I was like, how do I build that bond for them with Frisco? And these kids who are blessed, who are, like you said, we are all in a good city. So how is it that we can teach them at that age to give back in their own little ways? So in our community where we live, we formed a group called, it's only for teenagers, and we called a group called Heart Teens. So it's for teenagers and heart together. And the name came up from them. The kids put that together. And every now and then we'll do a sandwich drive, or we'll do something to come together and do it. So those are our little ways of teaching them leadership skills, and also to see how they can come together and do something together. So that's my story on community service. And on mentorship, I don't think I must have started late, because I didn't know the significance of mentor till few years back. And I learned that this is going to be a good topic for me to share. So I thought, okay, this is a good topic. Let me go ahead and see what I can share from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on so many things, Shanthi, with, ensuring that, for those of us who have kids, making sure that we instill a heart to give to them. Because many of our kids, if you grew up in Frisco, there were certain things that, unfortunately, our kids may have taken for granted. And many of us may have not grown up in that same environment that they grew up in. And so making sure that we don't neglect to instill in them a heart to give, that it's not all about you but it is about whose life you've touched today. And so you reminded me of that. So thank you for sharing. And then Maria.
My perspective is a little different because not being here in Frisco for only 4 years, but being in the military, traveling every 3 to 4 years. So that was hard on the family because we have children that went to 3 different middle schools. We had a couple of our kids went to 3 different high schools. Our youngest one, we had to get her out of high school to travel to Japan for her senior year in high school.
Oh, wow.
So all of that being in the military was tough on them. But what they appreciate is the mentorship, not just from me and my husband, but from the kids and some of the friends that we've met throughout the years, because they had to be sustained and get strong because they knew that you're going to leave this place and go to a new place and start all over. And that's what me and my husband ended up doing, coming to Frisco. Frisco was not on the radar. Our plan was to retire in Virginia. Well, my plan anyway. But once he finally retired out of the military, was to live in Virginia because our children and grandchildren are there. And he received a job offer here in Texas. And I'm like, oh, no. But to have a mentor to talk to me and say, hey, Maria, for years, you've been moving every 3 to 4 years. What's one more move? You never know what God has a plan for you. And to come here, and start over again with a new address and new everything. You'd be surprised at how many addresses I've had over the years. But to come here and meet people and let them see me for me, because sometimes it is hard. You're a mom, and my husband's career was skyrocketing as far as being in the Marine Corps. And sometimes you got to take a step back. So community service was my outreach. That was my outreach. And that's how I get involved in community service, because and to meet people, because I knew that if I didn't, I would just go stir crazy. And community service was a lifeline for me. It really was. It was a lifeline for me.
What I just heard you say, Maria, is you branded yourself as a giver. I mean, at the end of the day, you said, okay, I had to define who I was, and community service was going to be a part of who I am. And now that is a part of my brand. And I love that. Our episode a couple of weeks ago was around personal branding. And so you've now really been very deliberate about branding yourself as a giver through community service. And I love that. And we also, Shanthi, you did pivot us to talking about mentoring, which I think is also important. And the reason that we pair the two together is whether you are involved in a structured community service program or whether you are mentoring someone, you're still giving out of who you are to someone else. So I'd love to hear stories from you guys on just, either somebody you mentored or the importance of having a mentor and having somebody mentor you. So we'll open it up for whoever wants to start just kind of talking about mentoring a little bit.
I'll start. I think it worked both ways. When my husband got promoted to lieutenant colonel in the military, he ended up becoming a commanding officer. So at that time, I had they considered me the first lady of the unit that he was commanding officer of. So you had a lot of young military spouses that was not used to the military, and they don't understand that military is not a 9-to-5 job, that your husband or your spouse is going to be called away at any time. And whether it's weekends, my husband missed a lot of birthdays, Christmases, holidays, and everything. So for me to step into that position to talk to the younger wives and everything, and to let them know it's okay. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to let your guard down, but know that you got a family here that you can lean on. So when he or she is deployed, that you can come back and just talk to me. Like what we're doing now, that's what we did then. We call it a round table. We sat, and then, because once the spouses came back, you get a routine where you and your children are set doing certain things. Then when your spouse comes back, the whole routine changes.
They just upset the apple cart.
It changes. So they reach out because it's a lot, mentally and physically. It's a lot that a spouse has to go through when that person comes back home. So to be able to talk to the younger wives and say, okay, you know what? This is a safe zone. Let's talk about it. Let's see how we can figure this out. And then for me to have older women, and I call them, women that have been around in the military for a long time, that I was able to talk to and say, oh my God, how do I do this? Or which way should I go with this? And I think being in the military also helped me to realize that it's okay. It's okay to cry when you want to cry. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to just talk about it. And mentoring, to me, sometimes when you don't realize you're mentoring, you're just having a conversation.
I love that.
You're just having a conversation, and then somebody come up 3 weeks later and say, oh my God, you don't understand what you said that made me do this. And I'm sitting there like, okay, we just had a conversation. Not realizing that you're mentoring to someone, and someone is actually listening to what you have to say. So.
Wow. I love that. You remind me of, over COVID, I'm sure a lot of us did a lot of binging, Netflix binging. And so I binged on Army Wives. I don't know if you've seen this, but what you just talked about is what that whole series was about, of having that sisterhood that was there when the spouse was deployed, and being able to lean on them, and the importance of having somebody that you can be vulnerable with. We talked about on a former series the importance of just vulnerability as women. And sometimes in mentoring, to really have a group mentoring relationship, you've got to be willing to be vulnerable as the mentor and as the mentee. So let's what other experiences have you guys had from mentoring?
I'm going to jump right in and piggyback on the wives, because being an NFL wife, coming into the NFL, I needed a mentor. I didn't know which direction to go in. I mean, this is before social media, thank God, because it is so different now. It's so different now, but I did need some help. I didn't know what to do. I'm an educator, so I wanted to teach school, and I was raised to be independent. So, I would say to my husband all the time, like, you play football, but, I have a degree, and so it was like a self-esteem kind of issue also for me. And I was trying to keep myself lifted, but I didn't realize I was diminishing who he was as the husband, the head of the house, the provider. And he needed me to say, I appreciate you. And I learned that from some of my mentors that were married for years. They were like, you cannot come in here saying that, Vinita, not to your husband. He needs to feel appreciated. And you need to stop shooting him down every day, reminding him that you're educated. He knows that you all met in college. He knows you graduated, but it was something that, I was doing at first. But because of my mentors, when I first, married my husband, that helped me tremendously. So now, we're 28 years into the marriage. I feel like it's my time to mentor the younger wives, and hopefully they will listen.
They will listen.
Their social media can kind of, it's kind of distracting, but I feel led in that area to mentor the younger wives in the NFL. So thank you for saying that.
Love that. Yeah. I think we all have probably benefited from some marriage mentoring along the way. Being a strong woman, sometimes, that can clash with coming home and, fulfilling your duties as a wife. And we talked about in one of our episodes just the emotional intelligence. And sometimes we forget that we as women wear many hats. And so we go to corporate, and then we want to come back in and tell our husbands what to do as if they're, on our team. And my husband mentored me and reminded me that I am not at Frito-Lay. I am not on your team. So it was mentors that helped me along as well. Anybody else want to share about just kind of their mentoring story of either being mentored or mentoring somebody?
So, like I mentioned, I got into the mentoring bandwagon very late in my life. But these are stories that I don't get exposed to on a day-to-day. So thank you for sharing because I don't think I lived that life. I don't think I lived this life. So it's like, oh my God, yeah, these are very helpful things to do. From my angle, I started my business and I was in my own little world doing something, thinking I was running a business and I'm being a businesswoman. But you won't believe that the first 8 years of my business, we are 15 right now. So the first 8 years of my business, I never went out to sell. I didn't market myself. Most of it happened because I knew someone, they liked my job, they recommended someone, they gave. And we kept growing just like that. And I'm a technologist. You know how technologists are. We are very geeky. We think we know everything. In 2014 was the first time that something did not go well with the company. And I was like, I don't know whether I can handle it. Am I good for this business? How do I fix it? And my first idea of mentorship is I'm going to talk to someone and they are going to give me a solution to fix it. So the first meeting I set up, I went and I shared with her everything. And she kept asking me questions. And I was like, give me the answer. and that I walked away after an hour thinking, what did just happen? Is this what mentorship is? And then I kept pondering on the questions that she was asking. Why was she asking this question? What does she expect me to do with these questions? And it took, you won't believe, it took few weeks or months for me to come up with those answers. And those were my answers. It was not an answer that she gave for me to follow. But I think mentorship is exactly like you share your experience or you ask them some questions and make that other person think about it and come back with their solution that suits them rather than do it this way because it worked for me. It doesn't mean it will work for somebody else.
That's right.
So that was my first learning about mentorships. Just around that time, one of my friend's daughter was going into high school. And look at it from this perspective. They are thinking, I've been in business, so I know a lot of things. So they said, can you mentor my daughter? And I was like, I am in the shit right now. I don't know what I can teach somebody else. I don't even know whether I'm the right person. So it was not being self-indulgent, but I didn't know whether I had something to offer that will benefit. And it took some time for me. As the more I failed, I knew I have a lot to offer.
Yes.
Because these are the experiences that I don't want others to go through. So now it's, I don't think I can share anything from my success to them, except I'll have a level head. But otherwise, it's mostly the failures that tells me, okay, you can help them not go through the same path, and how can they avoid it? I was also given a lot of that feedback when things went well, and I keep telling that I didn't listen to them. But when I fail, I'm like, okay, somebody told me about this, and what was she telling, and he or she telling, and go back and refresh that and fix it. So I keep telling when I give feedback that I'm telling you, I know that you may not understand what I'm telling, but when it happens, you will know what you need to do. So yes, we all learn from our experience, and sharing that with somebody else is how I see mentorship.
You brought up so many really good points, but one of the things that kind of stuck out in my mind as you talked was mentoring is not about necessarily giving the person the fish, but teaching them how to fish. Because sometimes we want to just give people the answers as opposed to leading them to the answers that they already have within themselves. Karen, you want to give us a story about your mentoring experience?
As I was listening to everyone talk, the thing that really came back to me was an early mentor of mine. And early in my career, I had a vice president I reported to who saw more in me than I saw in myself. And I didn't understand it. And he promoted me to a role that I thought was above me. I was honored, but I was always very concerned that I wasn't going to be able to live up to his expectations. And even after he left that company, he continued to mentor me. And really what I gained from that was really, one, self-esteem, But two, I was able to see a broader world out there for myself. I was willing to open my eyes and see more possibilities than I probably would have seen without his support and his guidance and just his faith in me. And so, over the years, I've tried to be very intentional in giving that same type of intentional support to others because I know how it felt for me and how it still feels. I mean, that was a long time ago. That was well over 20 years ago when I worked with him, but I know how it felt. And so, I've made that a very purposeful thing for me to find opportunities to tell someone the potential I see in them and what I think that they're capable of doing that maybe they're not even capable of seeing themselves right now. But if they hear it enough, if they feel it enough, they'll start believing it. And, just being able to be that source for someone, and I do share a lot on social media about my volunteer service. It's something that I think probably some people look at it and they think I'm self-promoting. And the funny thing is I'm really not. I'm really trying to just show people all these opportunities that are out there for us to give and to serve and how it feels to be able to be part of that. And it came full circle last year whenever someone joined Frisco Women's League. And she's someone I've known for years. I had no idea that she had any interest in joining. And she told me the reason why she joined is because she'd been watching me and my service journey for years and she wanted to be a part of it. I was so honored that resonated with her in some way. That. And like I said, I didn't have any idea that was something that she was interested in doing, but she wouldn't have told me that, she wouldn't have told me that directly, but she did finally join and she's loving it. She's absolutely loving her experience. And, that's.
I love that. One of the things that I heard you say is, and I think you may have said it earlier as well, is, mentoring sometimes is not about deciding I'm going to mentor someone. I am getting ready to lay out a mentoring plan, but it's getting people to believe in themselves or getting people to think that they can achieve something that they didn't even think that they could do themselves. That's mentoring. So it's not necessarily about the structured protocol of mentoring. It's about just basically, it could be a conversation to your point that you didn't even know you had that was a mentoring moment for somebody because you got out of yourself and just decided to share and to give people some insight and to help them realize that they could be at a level that they may have not even dreamt of. So we're getting close to our time. So I want to kind of ask us to do one final thing in our conversation is, as you think about either mentoring or community service, and I know that you all have done amazing things in community service, share a little bit about one of the most impactful community service initiatives that you've been a part of, and not so much the mechanics of it, but what it meant to you. Because oftentimes we think about community service, and yes, it impacts other people, but in many cases, we get back just as much as we give out intrinsically. So just kind of think about that one community service experience. And I know you guys have tons, but just one that, that really impacted you internally.
Well, I'll start. And before I start, I just want to say, Karen, I really need to connect with you on Facebook.
I love that. It's happening.
I really do want to get more involved. I want to learn more about the Women's League in Frisco.
I love that.
Thank you so much.
Y'all, this is happening. So imagine what people are seeing out there. I love it.
So make sure you connect on Facebook.
Yes.
Okay?
Oh, most definitely.
I know. It's just girlfriends talking, right?
Yeah, just girlfriends talking. I love it. I love it.
Well, I will say, we do a lot in the city of Frisco, also the city of Dallas, but more so in Louisiana, where I was born and raised. And whenever there's a need, my husband and I try to show up and meet the needs of the citizens in the community. And a lot of the cities in Louisiana have been affected by the hurricane. Mm-hmm. And we do have a foundation. And what do? We reach out to Minnesota Vikings, the NFL, anyone who would like to give and help us feed and meet those that don't even have water. They were suffering this past year because Hurricane Ida hit them in a way that was unheard of. And it affected my hometown. So that really hit close to home. And we partnered with Feed the Children, and we took a truck down there and we fed over 800 families.
Whoa.
So we just look for opportunities to serve in the community, but specifically in Louisiana, where we were raised and where they were hit pretty hard. So
V, tell us what that meant to you. Like, you fed 800 people and they walked away with full stomachs, but what did that feel like for you?
It felt incredible. You know, there were people coming through the line in tears, and I'm very active on Facebook as well. And so they saw me on Facebook and they wanted to get out and hug me, and they were just saying, thank you. So, you know, as I mentioned earlier, too much is given, much is required. I felt like I was doing what God was calling me to do. I'm the hands and feet of Christ. And so it just warmed my heart, and it also blessed my children. Our children are always watching us, and they live by do as I do, not as I say. So they saw us doing. And so now they're looking for opportunities to also be a blessing. But how did it feel? It felt just incredible.
Wow. Impactful. Who
I
else?
can piggyback off that.
Okay.
Because the Marine Corps does Toys for Tots. Toys for Tots is a passion. It's a passion of mine. I've been involved with it for over 30 years. But I became the coordinator for the Collin County. And what people don't understand, Collin County last year, we had over 62,000 toys and serviced over 31,000 children. That's just in Collin County. Collin County has over 27 plus cities. People think about I call it the big four: Plano, Frisco, you know, Allen and McKinney. But there's other areas in Collin County that really need help. And to have that impact, I can tell a lot of different stories. We also made sure the Children's Hospital in Plano also has toys. So I rented a big old U-Haul, and we filled that U-Haul up full of toys and bites and tablets and everything for all. It's a 112-bed hospital, and we tripled that to give. And that was from the donations that we got from the community of Collin County, from the different businesses in Frisco area and all over. And what gets my heart is when I get up on Christmas morning and I check the email, and there's pictures that families have sent to us and saying thank you. You know, we don't know the families, but they send pictures of us saying that their babies are opening up their Christmas, because they should not have to go to bed and wonder if their child is going to have a Christmas morning. That's what Toys for Tots is all about. No child is, as far as I feel, no child on Christmas Day should wake up without having something wrapped under the tree, whether when they get up in the morning and run down the hallway or come down the stairs or wherever they coming, when they get to the tree, whether you have a tree or not, you should have some toys there. And that's what Toys for Tots is about. You get that. That's a feeling, like you were saying, that's a feeling that you know, you don't know the children who you're giving them to, but you know you did good. You know somebody who woke up Christmas morning and whether it's a bite, whether it's a tablet, whatever it is, I'll tell people, I don't care if you go to Dollar General and spend $5 on a toy. Somebody else is going to appreciate that $5 toy.
Yes, right.
That's what it's all about. They're going to appreciate it. So it doesn't matter whether it's $1, $5, or $100. It will get appreciated. And that's what Toys for Tots is all about.
Wow.
To see the babies, because it's about the kids. You know, we're adults. It's about that new generation that's coming up. I call Toys for Tots a family affair. My daughter is our social media, and she lives in Virginia.
I love that.
She's my social media queen, and make sure she posts all the pictures. And, you know, when people send us pictures, and that's what Toys for Tots is about. Beautiful. So that's my passion. That's my passion.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. And that's the story, a part of the story that I heard that I thought, okay, we're going to have conversation on community service. We cannot not have Maria be a part of this conversation. Who else wants to share their story?
I'll go. My world is a little different, so I'm learning new things. And that's what excites me about this whole thing. Thank you for putting this together. So, like I said, my passion is in women in technology. So we see a lot of gaps when it comes to girls seeking STEM careers, or even they drop out at any of these points, elementary school, middle school, high school. And sometimes they join the job, and like she said, sometimes they have to step away from their career so that they can accommodate their spouse's career. And you sometimes want to come back to workforce, and think about it. When we come back to workforce and we are trying for a job, we will be putting the same amount of effort as somebody else. But because in technology, especially if you are not up to date with technology, you are at a discount in terms of the position that you want to go for, the salary that you want to negotiate. It also impacts the way that you are approaching a meeting or something. You feel, I am not up to date with respect to what's happening in the industry. So maybe I should not speak, or maybe I should not contribute. There are so many things that we carry. So one of the first things that we did when we took over as a new board for Alliance of Technology and Women is to see how do we fix this. So women are constantly stepping away to take care of either their parents or their kids, and they are coming back. And how do we fix it? So we put a reskilling program in place where it's all free for them. They get to learn everything hands-on, instructor-led, because women learn well when it is done in person rather than sit in front of a computer. I won't touch it. But so we put an instructor-led program, and last year we worked with Salesforce to get them Salesforce certified. And this year, when corporations, I spoke to at least multiple corporations to step in and sponsor us, because there is a lot of business sense in that. 50% of the population is women, and hardly 20% of your IT workforce is women. So there is a big gap. Why can you not spend a little bit dollar, help these women build their, build their skills, get the confidence, and come back? We all have strengths. It's just that sometimes, things don't go the way it should. So when we did the Salesforce training, I think people were watching to see, okay, let's see what they are doing. And this year, we have 3 big corporations in Frisco, Plano that stepped in and said, we are going to do the entire training for these women, because they saw that most of the women in the last cohort got placed. They're like, okay, now I'll put the money, I'll put the training, I'll bring all the resources. You just bring us the women and we'll help them. So we are constantly looking for women who either worked for some time and now want to get back, or women who understand that technology is future and they want to, see what they can do. Or, I have been working in technology, but I didn't skill myself because of other reason. Let me refocus and do it. It is for all of them. So if you have women in your network that are looking to get into technology, these companies are not just stepping in and training. They are also hiring these women and giving them jobs. And these jobs start at $70,000, $80,000. It's not, small money. So
let me just pause right there, Shanthi, and make sure that the women out there realize what she just said. And so we will make sure that you get some connection to Shanthi, because that's amazing that companies are not only willing to invest in training, but to offer opportunities and great paying career opportunities.
Yep. That's wonderful. And they don't need to have any training in technology for them to apply.
That's impactful.
And
that's
these companies are coming up with big numbers. I want to hire 50, train 50, hire 50, train 100, hire 100. And now we are like, oh my God, how do we handle those, kind of demand? There are a lot of us out there. I love that. Military moms out there who can do this from their home. Just come reskill and go ahead and do that. So
thank you for sharing. That's amazing. But all of that started with you just giving of what you had, and then companies started to add on, and now they're big jobs and opportunities. We'll wrap it up with Karen, and then we'll thank everybody for staying with us. And this is such an important topic about giving back, either through mentoring or community service. So,
I was thinking about, first of all, I think I'd heard it earlier when someone said, I do the service work for myself, and I really do. I mean, the community service work that I do feeds my soul. I mean, it's no question that it's a very selfish feeling that I get from it, and I'm thrilled for it. But I also have 2 children that, I'm responsible for making sure. My husband and I are responsible for making sure that we're raising them the right way. Yeah. And I've heard about raising charitable children, and again, in a community like ours, ours where need is not obvious. It's very important to show them where that need is, and so that they can actually feel like, there is a way for them to give back, regardless of what a community looks like, regardless of what you see directly, regardless of what is right in front of your eyes. There's need, and to go find it and go fulfill it. And so I've taken my children to different opportunities over the years. And I remember one I did recently with my daughter, and it was a pack for Frisco Pass Packs, which I'm on the board for. And, she was just asking some questions about, how many children we serve. And, just whenever you look at the number of bags that we send out to schools every week for them to pick up. And this very, innocent question came up about, well, what happens if these kids don't get these meals? What happens if they don't get this food? And I said, well, that's called food insecurity. That's, there's a chance that those children won't have food for the weekend.
Wow.
And, just the thought, for someone who's never had to worry about, food not being on her table, for her to be able to just step back and be able to process what it's like possibly for another family who maybe doesn't have the opportunity that week to buy food to put on that table. And for that child to, out of no fault of their own, and really no fault of the parents either, for them to be in a situation where they're in a time of need, and for us to have that opportunity to fulfill that need. And it's just something that I think the more that we can demonstrate to our children that opportunity to give back, to serve others, to be that voice for other people, to lift people up. Frisco Family Services, Nicole Bursey, who I love dearly, who runs Frisco Family Services, made this comment years ago, and it's not a hand up, it's not a hand out, it's a hand up. And it's about lifting people up. And I really do believe that that's a responsibility that we have as human beings, just to be that source for other people and love people, through the hard times that they're having.
Absolutely. Wow. Y'all, this is a table full of amazing LeadHERs here in Frisco. I mean, you have heard the amazing stories of how these women have given back into their community through either mentorship or being a part of a structured community service, or simply sharing insight and perspective on who people can be and taking them to a greater level than they even thought that they could aspire to. So this has been wonderful girlfriend conversation. Hopefully somebody out there has felt inspired to get involved. And Karen said something that I thought was so powerful: find a need and fulfill it. And I guarantee you, if you find a need and fulfill it, you will be fulfilled yourself. And I think each of these women have talked about their own self-fulfillment when they give back. So thank you all today. It has been amazing. I love the connections that are already starting. I want to do something for Toys for Tots.
Absolutely.
So hopefully you guys feel like this has been a good investment of your time, because even doing this has been giving back to somebody that's going to watch this video. So thank you all. And you guys, thank you for staying in there with us for the month of March, Women's History Month. This was our final episode, but you might just see us again soon. So take care.